It's time for the Onyx News. Extraterrestrials, time anomalies, dimensions, remote viewing, UFOs, UAPs, and USOs, ghostly encounters, abductions, Bigfoot, and more. Your end of the week news source for everything unexplained. Here is your host for the Onyx News Podcast, Margie K.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Onyx News. I'm your host, Margie K. And today I have a co-host with me, none other than the producer of the Onyx Network, Race Hobbs. Hi, Race.
How you doing, Margie? It's good to see you.
Good to see you. We talk a lot, but we don't do shows together a lot, so this is a treat.
It's been a while. It's been a minute.
And in fact, we've got October 31st coming up, which will be the 4th anniversary of the Onyx Network. So we're planning some good stuff for that. And it's going to be fun. So stay tuned for that. I do want to mention a couple of things. Well, tonight, as you probably saw in the ads we sent out, tonight we're going to be discussing, I have to take a haunted road trip on Route 66, and that is my new book. It's coming out on Monday, the 22nd. Following this book, I'm going to be writing one called Take a UFO Trip on Route 66. So anyway, so this one is brand new. It's coming out on the same day as another book, and I thought I just put that in here. Did not just put that in here. Here it is. Okay. UFO attacks in Brazil. It's the true story of the most terrifying events in the history of ufology by Thiago Luiz Tichetti. He will be on the program on Tuesday with me on the MUFON Midwest program. This is an extraordinary book. We are publishing it on the same day, both books.
Brazil is loaded with cases, Margie, that do have physical electromagnetic trace. I mean, they have an abundance of them.
They do, and it is so strange that they have so many in South America, Brazil, and other places where people have been physically injured or actually died by getting too close to a UFO or too close to an ET, touching an ET. So this is one of those cases. People were physically harmed.
And there were some mysterious deaths, if I recall, in the Colares event, for example, where some of the high-level military officials that wound up coming forward later had some mysterious deaths involved with them. I remember back when I first, when UFOs were just a hobby, UAP UFOs, the Colares case was one of the first that really just rocked me because of the fact that there were so many people in this small environment that were all having these same symptoms and physical effects and wounds, with so many witnesses and physicians that were there to catalog and scientifically record all of this stuff, because there was only like one or two in the whole place, and physicians, and they were astounded by what people were claiming, and they started off with mass delusions and went from there until the physicians themselves were walking out of their clinic one night and saw the phenomenon themselves. I mean, Brazil really has it. They've got, if you're new to UFOs and you're interested in UFOs, or if you've been in it for a long time, and this individual knows their stuff. So I'm getting a copy of this book myself. I've got to get it signed.
Yeah, this is Thiago is the director of MUFON Brazil.
And he knows.
He's a on this case. So, yeah, this is one to get. But we digress because we're going to talk about our haunted Route 66. However, I do have one more thing to talk about first. Do check out our blog at unxnetwork.com if you want to know what's going on in your state this season, because Violet is doing a special blog. She's putting a state up every day. It's called the Unx Network Halloween Season Spooky Guide. And she just got Louisiana up today, so she's down to the L's. She should have all of them up by mid-October. And she lists events and tours, such as the Queen's Labyrinth Halloween Masquerade, A Court of Fire and Fate, the Dark Woods, and other events. And then there's, of course, a listing of real top haunted locations. Louisiana is a big state for that. The Oak Alley Plantation, the LaLaurie Mansion we know about, and many others. And then she also lists family-friendly events. So, yeah, if you want something to do in your state, do check out our blog at unxnetwork.com.
I love Louisiana, by the way. I love going down there. Myrtle Plantation, the Hem and Bow. There's just so much.
Have you been to the Myrtles?
Oh, yeah. If I don't know we're going to talk about it, I had my Myrtles Plantation coffee mug that I got from there.
Oh, my gosh. Well, no, I didn't know we were either, but what did you experience?
Twice. I've been there twice. My first experience, I just about had an accident, like pulling in the parking lot. And then the second time I went was with my former radio station I worked for. We went up there to do just a walkthrough kind of investigation and just to go back through it and see it. And it had changed so much. The barn outside kind of stable building had burned down, and then they just they rebuilt what was left of it and made like a gift shop and like a tourist kind of a little place where you could go in and learn all about it and get tourist stuff. And that's where I got my shirts and my coffee mugs and I got my coffee with chicory in it, and all the stuff they've got there. It's really cool. But Myrtles is a beautiful plantation, and very, very rich history of being haunted. I was so captured by it the first time when I was pulling in. You go through this kind of S curve through a guard shack. You come up, you're looking at the home as you're going uphill to one side. You turn and come back, and there's that Spanish moss, that just sways through the trees, and it almost hypnotizes you. It's just knowing you're on the grounds of the Great Myrtle Plantation alone gets you kind of stirred up from everything you learn about it, read about it, watch about it on TV, and then you're there. I think I was just overwhelmed by it. But I was pulling in the parking lot, and I remember there was that awning and everything on the house where they have that photograph of those two kids that are on this little awning looking down on what was one of the house slaves. The lady, I forget her name now, doesn't come to mind at the moment, but she had lost an ear because she got caught listening through the door of her boss, of her master, right, or whatever.
Yeah.
And they cut her ear off as punishment. And I forget her name, but she worked there for a long, long time. And those kids died. They were supposedly, she tried to poison him for cutting off her ear. And she wound up killing the two kids, poisoning the two kids. And they supposedly have this image. I don't even know if it's real or not, but man, I remember seeing that image in my mind it was like I was driving right where they took that picture, that old black and white picture. And I was just so caught up in that I just kept driving, and my wife and kids were yelling at me to stop. And I wasn't listening to them. I was just captured by something else mentally. And I knew them, but it was like I was just numb to it. And I was just focused on that house. And by the time I stopped, half of the van was off of the parking lot. Like I was about to head down into the little slope behind the house, because the house is perched on a little hill inside woods, and I was about to drive off down the backside of it, and
that wouldn't have been good.
No. But Myrtles, it is well worth the trip to St. Francisville, Louisiana, too. So, and then down the road, there's another place. I think it's called the Himmenbow, huge mansion. They rent it out for weddings and events, and I mean, it's another one that is really worth a stop to see.
Okay,
that I
haven't heard of that one. All right, well, we're gonna get back to Route 66 now. There's a lot to it. When I started digging in to write this book, I had no idea what I was getting into. So basically, Route 66 starts up in Chicago, goes through Illinois, through Missouri, Oklahoma, a little bit of the top of Texas. There's not a whole lot there, but there are a few good haunted sites. Then, of course, through New Mexico, Arizona, and California.
That's where I've done time with Route 66, was when Robin and I lived in Albuquerque. And, and I actually got on it and drove on it, and I was like, man, this would have been, you did, if you were in a Corvette where you could actually go fast, you know what I mean? Or a faster car, I could see how people would have wrecks on that road. Cause like they didn't come through with dozers and like grade sections of it smooth. It just goes over little hills, they're not very big at all. It's like, why didn't they smooth this over? They just paved it right over the little hills.
Yeah. It was before the highway systems.
Right. Right.
So here I'm going to explain a little bit about the birth of Route 66 and the early legends. Initially, Route 66 followed Illinois State 4 from Chicago to East St. Louis, though the section from Springfield south was relocated in 1930 to roughly the path of what is now Interstate 55. And I just lost my spot. What travelers don't realize is that Route 66 repurposed ancient pathways. The route was a well-traveled path long before it became an official road. Before receiving its iconic designation, people traveled between Chicago and St. Louis on the Pontiac Trail, an unpaved stagecoach byway following Native American trails. As Americans migrated westward, human traffic increased along this natural corridor. The Tice Road Law of 1913 provided state assistance for roadside improvement, setting the stage for what would become Route 66. And Illinois earned the distinction of being the first state with its section completely paved. This early development made Illinois' Route 66 particularly significant, and perhaps explains why so many spirits seemed attached to this stretch. The flatness of the Illinois portion made it a popular truck route, and during World War II, its importance surged as a critical path for military convoys. Interestingly, Al Capone allegedly supported the construction of this sleek new road. Subsequently, the notorious gangster used Illinois' first fully paved highway to bootleg liquor during Prohibition, driving a bulletproof V16 Cadillac painted to blend in with Chicago police cars. Well, isn't that clever? Okay, so many towns that sprouted along Route 66 harbored individuals hell-bent on doing dastardly deeds. As a result, when people met unnatural ends, some believed they'd have trouble transitioning to the afterlife. This dark history, coupled with decades of travelers passing through, has created what paranormal investigators consider a uniquely active spiritual corridor through Illinois. Despite Route 66 being officially decommissioned in 1985, the ghost of its heyday refused to disappear, making the Illinois stretch of the Mother Road as famous for its spectral residents as for its historical significance. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about one place in each state as Route 66 goes through. And of course, the most popular In Illinois is the Congress Plaza Hotel in Chicago. Standing majestically at the beginning of Route 66, the Congress Plaza Hotel has earned its reputation as the most haunted hotel in Illinois. Since opening its doors in 1893 for the World's Columbian Exposition, this historic landmark has accumulated ghost stories as steadily as it has welcomed guests. Al Capone's, the notorious gangster Al Capone, features prominently in the hotel's supernatural lore. While many believed he maintained headquarters on the 8th floor of the North Tower, historical records dispute this claim. If anywhere is haunted in Chicago, it's the Congress Hotel, notes paranormal expert Tony Sabelski. Guests report encountering a heavy-set man in an old-fashioned suit roaming the corridors at night. The distinctive sound of his two-tone wingtip shoes clicking down hallways alerts visitors to his presence. Although Capone never likely checked in under his own name, his associates certainly conducted business on the premises. Among the hotel's most peculiar phenomena is the Hand of Mystery, what appears to be a human hand reaching out from behind a wall near the Gold Room's balcony. Originally believed to belong to a construction worker accidentally entombed during building, investigations reveal it's likely just odd-shaped caulk that resembles finger and a thumb. Meanwhile, Peg-Leg Johnny remains one of the most frequently spotted apparitions. This one-legged vagrant reportedly met his demise in the alley behind the hotel. Staff and guests encounter him throughout the building, in hallways, guest rooms, the lobby, and dining areas. His mischievous spirit enjoys manipulating electronics and light switches. Peg-Leg Johnny, oh my gosh, that sounds like a troublemaker there.
I love that. I love that name. That's sharp.
So room 441, if you want to stay there, you might want to check this out, but only if you have a strong stomach. It holds the distinction of generating more security calls than any other room in the hotel. Guests report seeing a shadowy female figure who kicks them awake, tugs at blankets, and moves objects without being touched. The paranormal activity has become so notorious that past visitors have fled their rooms in panic. So that's room 441. The hotel's ballrooms harbor their own mysteries. Security guards report hearing phantom piano notes playing in the Florentine room, despite no one being present. In the same space, wedding parties occasionally discover that bridesmaids posing for photographs mysteriously don't appear in the developed pictures. Whoa! From Captain Louis Alstheim, nicknamed the Shadow Man, who committed suicide in 1900, to the ghost of 6-year-old Carol Langer on the 12th floor, the Congress Plaza Hotel continues welcoming both living guests and those who seemingly never checked out. That is an interesting one. Now, let me get down to the next state in order, which is Missouri. And
66, Margie, 66 passes right between you and me, just about perfectly. I was looking at your map.
It does, yeah.
And you're in Kansas City, and I'm down here like in Fort Smith, and it's like right between us.
It is. So, yeah, I'm going to mention one other because I've been there, and I was there recently with my husband. It's called the Ruble Hotel. And it's in Grafton, Illinois, where the Haunted America Conference is held every year. And so I decided to stay there because it's supposedly very haunted. It's at 217 East Mail Street in Grafton. The hotel was built in 1879, and it shows it. I mean, it's original. All the woodwork and everything is really cool. It opened in 1884 by Michael Ruble. It boasted a saloon as well, which is still there. It burned down in 1912, but was quickly rebuilt with an additional restaurant on the first floor and a dance hall on the second floor. In 1997, new owners purchased the property and reopened it. The hotel has a unique historic look to it with many details. It's fascinating to look at, but the ghosts make it extra special. When we arrived and checked in our room, I heard banging on the outside wall. But when I opened the door to see what the cause was, there was no one there. It was as if someone was just banging with their hand or something heavy. It occurred the next day as well, so I asked the staff what they knew, and they had not heard of that happening before. They did say that most of the activity occurs in the kitchen, with pots, pans, and dishes often moving or being thrown across the rooms and doors opening and closing on their own. However, there is another spirit that lingers, and it is a little girl named Abigail. Abigail has been seen in the upstairs hallway and on the stairs by many patrons. She either died of tuberculosis or in the 1912 fire. The child may be responsible for footsteps heard late at night, items vanishing, and unexplained orbs witnessed by patrons and paranormal investigators. I spoke with a past guest who said that her aunt was tripped by an unseen leg and fell at the top of the stairs. They believe it was a mischievous ghost child who did the deed.
Mm.
Oh boy, yeah. So I heard really good things about that hotel and how the ghosts were all really nice. But then I heard from a couple of other people that they had bad experiences there. So just be careful around the stairs, especially because that's how you get up to the second floor. It's the old staircase. All right. So now Missouri. Now we come historic Route 66 winds through Missouri with more than just scenic views and nostalgic roadside attractions. It harbors some of America's most chilling paranormal hotspots. The iconic highway, established in 1926, has become legendary not only for its historic significance, but also for its ghostly residents. Surprisingly, Missouri's stretch of this famous road contains an unusual concentration of haunted locations. From the tragic spirits of Lemp Mansion to the mysterious apparitions at Devil's Elbow, countless travelers have reported unexplained encounters throughout the years. These eerie sites along Route 66 continue to attract both skeptics and believers seeking to experience the supernatural. So, a lot of people have heard of the Lemp Mansion in St. Louis. So I'm just going to go over this very briefly. The Lemp family saga began when Johann Adam Lemp emigrated, or Johann Adam Lemp, immigrated from Germany to St. Louis in 1838. Initially, he opened a grocery store, and they soon focused exclusively on brewing beer, like a lot of other people did in St. Louis. Made a lot of money at it. And he established the Western Brewery Company by 1840. Then his son, William J. Lemp Sr., led the company. It flourished, eventually becoming one of the top 20 brewing companies in the world and top 10 in the country. The family's tremendous success, however, gave way. Sorry.
Lost your
Switched my
spot.
page. Switched my page too fast. Okay. It gave way to a series of tragedies. Frederick, William Sr.'s favorite son and heir apparent, died mysteriously in 1901 at just 28 years old. Devastated by this loss, William Sr. became increasingly depressed and eventually shot himself in 1904. His widow, Julia, died of cancer 2 years later in the same bedroom. The curse, which is now known as, seemed to follow subsequent generations. William Jr. took over the business but struggled with alcoholism and personal problems. When Prohibition arrived in 1920, the brewery suffered tremendously. That same year, William's sister Elsa shot herself just days after remarrying. 2 years later, William Jr. also died by suicide in his office at the mansion. Charles Lemp became the final family member to live in the house, eventually taking his own life in 1949 after leaving a note that read, "In case I'm found dead, blame it on no one but me." Now, I have visited the Lemp. I investigated it along with Debbie Ziegelmeyer several years ago, and immediately upon entering, they have a restaurant in the lower level, so we had lunch. And immediately upon entering that house, I felt a heaviness, just like the air was super thick. So I knew something was truly going on. So common paranormal experiences include glasses flying off the bar as if struck by an invisible hand, phantom knockings, footsteps, and disembodied voices, full body apparitions resembling family members, particularly William Sr., who was also observed by myself during an investigation in the basement. So Debbie and I are both in the basement. We're the only people there. And there's a hallway that goes down to a little bar area that's kind of offset. And then behind the bar, you see an arch, but it's all bricked in. So I turned around and I saw a man, an older gentleman wearing a suit, come walking forward, turn left into that little bar area, and then walk straight through the brick underneath the arch. So I asked, there was a man behind the bar at the time, and he was getting ready for some event that night. And I said, by any chance, is there a gentleman? And I described what he looked like. And he goes, oh, yeah, that was William Sr. And they had tunnels underground from their house to the brewery. So he wanted to avoid the public, and he would walk through the tunnels. And that was the entrance to the tunnel where he just walked into.
Oh, my goodness.
And it was, I mean, full body apparition.
What'd you say the name of this place was, Margie?
The Lemp Mansion in St. Louis.
Lemp Mansion in St. Louis.
And it's beautiful. I mean, it's a red brick structure. It's just stunning.
See, that's what I get stuck in. Just like with the Crescent over in Eureka Springs. I get really, because I come with a construction background, you know what I mean? And just like your husband, you know, being a master mason, and he has to look at brickwork and rock work and foundation work and things, you just get caught up in all of that. And these older places that were just, I mean, these people were like artisans in some cases, master craftsmen that built this stuff by hand. And you just have to stop and take appreciation of that alone. And then all of this happens, you know. So it's like
you kind of get two for one.
It's a double-edged sword,
if you like history and you like buildings like I do. I mean, I'm always looking at every detail. And then of course haunted. That's great. People also experience the overwhelming scent of lavender perfume associated with the Lavender Lady, Lillian Hanlon Lemp, also experienced by myself during an investigation. We were in her bedroom, and Debbie and I both had the smell of lavender perfume, very strong. Contractors abandoned renovation projects after tools mysteriously disappeared. Sudden drops in temperature in the bedroom formerly occupied by Lillian Lemp. We experienced that too. And I had a digital thermometer with me that you aim at things to get the temperature. And we just stood there in this cold spot and just watched the temperature go down, 10 degrees in no time. So that was very interesting. Furthermore, visitors have reported feeling watched, hearing strange moaning sounds, and capturing unexplained faces in photographs. Fortunately, I didn't get that. The mansion staff has also documented numerous accounts from overnight guests who experienced paranormal activity, particularly in the rooms where family members died. Paranormal groups and individual ghost hunters are likely to experience one or more events that leave them satisfied that the location is seriously haunted. And I have spoken to several paranormal investigators, and they say every time they get something will happen. That's pretty guaranteed. So they do tours at the mansion. So if you check on the internet with them, if you want to take a tour, you can schedule that. You can, have lunch or dinner there.
Margie, that family had something. I just now, I looked it up, and I was thinking they had something to do with like beer, and I'm reading here now that they built the first. They built the first lager beer brewery. Yeah. It's all, being German immigrants. That's awesome.
Yeah. But all of those tragic things that happened to them.
Yeah. So many suicides in their family there.
I feel like there was something else going on there that's very dark, and that energy is still there that may have been there before they even built that house.
Right. Where they built it was on a place that was active already.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
On something that actually made them commit suicide, made them depressed. Who knows? That sort of thing happens. People,
Man,
we've heard those stories.
I'm telling you right now, there are places on Earth where the energy just can unravel a human brain.
Yeah.
Just unravel it. The M triangle in Russia comes to mind. People go in this place and they come out just completely different, scrambled. Some people come out with bad effects that last a lifetime. Some people don't come out at all. There's places in Japan, a place in Japan where people go to commit suicide in these woods, in this forest.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's just places on Earth that you can't explain the energy that is downturned there. But you know, you're surrounded by some of the most beautiful landscape on top of the Earth. But I think what's under it is where the answer is.
Well, there are positive places and there are negative places. And there's something called a vile vortex, which spins in an anti-clockwise direction. And if you run into a vile vortex, anything is possible. So it's usually dark. Okay, I want to hit, we're going to run out of time. I want to hit Pythian Castle real quick in Springfield, Missouri. And that's my photo. It started in 1909 when Springfield vied against 7 other cities to become the location for the Pythian Home, a retirement facility built by the Knights of Pythias fraternal organization for their members and families. And it's a huge structure. It served as a gathering place until 1942, when the U.S. military took control to utilize it alongside a neighboring hospital treating injured American soldiers. Additionally, German and Italian POWs were housed in the castle during World War II for medical care and work duties. A number of these prisoners were detained in the separate utility building and washroom facility behind the main structure. Following the war's conclusion, the building remained under federal ownership until 1993, sale to a private buyer. Now, I want to make sure everybody understands the military is still there on another structure. They only carved out a piece big enough for the castle to be privately owned, and there's no big parking lot. It's a small parking lot. So only a few people can actually go there at the same time. It's very strange. And why the military is still there, they don't know. They told me. In 2011, the television program Ghost Lab investigated the property, validating claims of supernatural activity from former occupants. In 2017, Ghost Adventures visited, and they investigated. They do have weekly ghost tours every Tuesday and Friday. And I'm going to tell you that place is located only a couple of blocks from the most haunted house I have ever investigated or ever lived in. I lived in it in the when I was in my teens in the 70s. And here is a picture of that haunted house. It was a big 3,000 square foot home. And you've heard me talk about it before and probably will again, but I did include that in the book as well. And then also across the street is Drury College campus. And it is also very haunted. And there's also the fact that a Civil War battle was fought at the site of all 3 of these locations. So it doesn't surprise me that they're haunted. And it's just very, very, very strange stuff going on there. Okay, now we're going to be moving to, of course, the Joplin Hornet Spooklight is a big place too in Joplin. And that is a show by itself, which will be coming soon. So Gans's is the next place. And let me get down here to Stoll Cemetery, the gateway to hell. Supposed to be. So a few years ago, a friend of mine, Daniel Lowing, he knew I was taking a trip, and he says, you've got to stop by Stoll Cemetery to see if it's the gateway to hell, because I'd never been there and I didn't investigate. And so I did. And it's so I arrive, and I was disappointed when I found that the graveyard was fenced in with a locked gate, and the driveway was just big enough for one car to park in front of the gate. So that's where I parked. There were signs, "Do not enter private property." So it's not like a regular graveyard where, I don't even know how people get in there to visit their families or their loved ones. But I stayed for quite a while. I didn't see anyone else around. There were hardly any cars on this road, and the town is extremely small. So across the street was a fire station that looked active, but there was no one there at the time. So I stood next to the gate. I took a few photos, and I scanned the area, remote viewing it. Then I was immediately drawn to one area to my right and at the top of the hill next to a grove of trees. And there I sensed a very dark energy that was building up in intensity. I also saw a small shack in my mind's eye, but not with the naked eye. The dark energy seemed to notice me and began to slowly move down the hill and in my direction. Now, I've had that happen before. I do not like that feeling at all. And that's when I decided it would be best not to confront whatever it was and leave the area. As I left, the energy seemed to stop at the gate. And then in doing research on the internet, I found that legends about this cemetery have circulated for more than 100 years. The University of Kansas newspaper posted an article in 1974 about the many strange occurrences at this site, including a legend that the devil himself appears in person twice each year, once at the spring equinox and again on, you guessed it, Halloween night. According to the article, witches met here on a regular basis, and people have had ghostly encounters as well. One person said they were grabbed on the arm by an unseen hand while walking among the graves. The residents, however, of Stoll say that they've never experienced anything strange, and they are annoyed that people come looking for trouble. So they erected the locked gate to keep people out. Now, I found out later, the area where I felt that dark energy coming up from the ground was the original site of a small chapel that was supposedly haunted, and also where witches met. And that was true, that there was something there, and there were people having meetings there privately that weren't supposed to. So, okay. And of course, there are other places in Kansas, but I want to move on. I'm just taking a few excerpts from the book so that you can get an idea of what I cover here. So Oklahoma is next. And let me get to one of the sites. There are some real ghost towns that are frozen in time. And this is the Magnolia Service Station in Texola. Oklahoma's stretch of the Mother Road is dotted with communities that time has nearly erased. Places where abandoned buildings and empty streets tell stories of prosperity turned to dust. These ghost towns offer some of the most haunted places in Oklahoma, where visitors report unexplained phenomena amid the decaying remnants of once thriving communities. Here we go. This is the one. This is the Magnolia Service Station. So Texola is considered to be a living ghost town. It had a peak population of 581 in 1930, and now it has maybe 36 people. The town's peculiar history adds to its supernatural atmosphere. Due to its location near the 100th meridian, Texola was surveyed 8 different times, meaning some early residents technically lived in both Texas and Oklahoma without ever moving homes. This geographic uncertainty seems to have manifested in a spectral uncertainty, with visitors reporting strange sensations of displacement. Now, along Route 66, I want you to realize that there's a lot more going on than just ghosts. People have had unexplained things happen, like driving down the road, and then all of a sudden they're back where they started and they're taking the same route again, seeing the same signs on the road, or jumping from one place to another, driving along, and then all of a sudden they're a couple hundred miles down the road, and they thought it was only 1 minute in time that that passed by, and other things, which we will get to. So the Skirvin Hotel in Oklahoma City was built in 1911. This 14-story Art Deco landmark stands as Oklahoma City's oldest hotel and unquestionably its most haunted. Hey, Brace, you're back.
I made it back.
Yeah, you disappeared for a minute. Okay, so the Skirvin Hotel says male guests received particular attention from Effie, a reported ghost there. NBA players have blamed poor game performance on supernatural disturbances at the Skirvin. In 2010, Knicks center Ed Curry, despite outweighing his teammate by over 100 pounds, fled to Nate Robinson's room for protection. Lakers forward Metis Sandford Artest reported an amorous ghost assault in 2016, while the Chicago Bulls documented bizarre noises and self-slamming doors. Wow. Okay. Skirvin Hotel, Oklahoma City. If you want to have a weird experience there, guys, go check that out. All right. So we're going to move on now to the next state, and I am going to find that. And we have a few comments. Is there anything worth putting up there, Race?
Already put them up earlier when you were reading.
Yeah. Oh, okay. It just didn't look like it to me. Okay. Here is one. It's called the Nat Ballroom. And, oh, I thought I put it up. No. Okay. Oh, God. It's called the Natatorium in Amarillo. It's called the Nat also. According to local lore, home to several spectral residents, this historic district, now recognized on the National Register of Historic Places, has been thoughtfully renovated into a charming antique quarter featuring unique collectible shops, boutique stores, and inviting sidewalk cafes. The term natatorium historically referred to an indoor swimming facility, which was precisely this building's original purpose when it first opened its doors in July of 1922. But in 1926, it was changed into an elegant dance hall and called the Nat Ballroom. During the big band era, the Nat boasted one of the Southwest's premier dance floors, including legendary performers such as Tommy Dorsey, Louis Armstrong, Betty Goodman, etc. In recent years, after its transformation into an antique mall, owners and visitors have reported mysterious occurrences, including cold spots in the former upstairs gambling hall. Strange noises have been heard in empty rooms, and furniture has been found mysteriously rearranged overnight. A psychic claims to have encountered a female spirit in a white dress bearing a red stain on the bodice. According to local legend, this apparition is of a woman who spent considerable time in the gambling hall and once had red wine spilled on her dress during an evening of merriment. Apparently, she enjoyed herself so thoroughly that she decided to make the Nat her eternal home. And there's more. People hear orchestras playing, ghostly music, etc.
Well, imagine having an entire room worth of furniture being rearranged on CCTV. If you could just watch that on video, watch that. I would. The day they capture that is when I'll avoid haunted places. I already do as much as possible, but that would be. I've seen so many crazy things. You don't know what's real, what's not real. But to actually see an authentic video of something like that, I would lose it, Margie. You know me.
I do. But I've seen so many things that I'm pretty immune. I will just stand there and look at it and watch it.
It's the fact that they can move physical objects. It's like that's what gets me. Like, if you could move a chair or a couch from across the veil, what's to stop you from picking up some scissors and coming after you with them? The kitchen knife, some of those old haunted like stories that we grew up with just take on a whole new meaning.
Yeah, when spirits can do things like move objects, it's impressive. But when they can move an entire room of objects, all the chairs, the tables, everything, that's just crazy. That's a lot of power. That's a lot of energy.
Is it a group effort? Like, do they
Right.
bring in some help, or
yeah.
just one spirit doing it? That it would be something to see, you know what I mean? Like to walk in and no one else has been there. Book stacking, the chairs. It's been documented for decades, this kind of stuff. And it just baffles people. I mean, in this day and age, really, people can go after it, for content. It's, not necessarily, there's a lot of hucksters out there. But back then, it was really something that it was a reputation you didn't want to have. People didn't want to go stay in haunted locations, back then, back in the day.
No, they didn't. And if they got a bad reputation, people wouldn't go.
Not right.
Go out of business.
Right. It was exactly the opposite of today, like most things. Right.
Okay, so now we've come to Glen Rio and the town of ND that have become prime territory for those seeking Route 66 hauntings. Travel guides recommend the area for photography, noting great photo opportunities abound in the Glen Rio and ND area. Be sure to check out the remains of an old rock island trestle west of town on your way to Bard, New Mexico. What these guides don't mention is how many photographs capture unexplainable phenomena, light orbs, shadowy figures, and other anomalies that defy rational explanation. ND has been quite forgotten by the world, and this isolation creates perfect conditions for supernatural occurrences. The town that once housed 187 residents in 1950 now stands completely abandoned, so it's a great place to explore. And I'm covering places that are open to the public, by the way, in this book. So you're not wasting your time, except, of course, that house that I mentioned earlier. That's owned by a private property, the one that I used to live in. Okay, and I've got to move along here because I want to get to Haunted Route 666. All right, so in Albuquerque, New Mexico, High Noon Saloon proves that spirits don't always prefer empty buildings. Sometimes they enjoy the company of diners and the warmth of a busy restaurant. Their High Noon restaurant occupies one of the area's most historic structures, and it was a gambling parlor and a brothel before a Spanish furniture maker and his retail shop was opened in the late 1960s. Its final residential tenant was a Catholic nun who lived there before the building's commercial rebirth. In 1974, the High Noon Restaurant and Saloon opened its doors there. So there's a lady in a white dress. She appears without warning in the Santos room, and it materializes for brief moments before dissolving into nothing. Staff members have grown accustomed to these sudden appearances, though the sight still startles newcomers. Patrons occasionally glance up for their meals to catch a glimpse of this ethereal figure gliding through the dining area. So there's some paranormal activity going on there, definitely. And okay, let me move on here. This is the La Posada Hotel in Santa Fe, New Mexico. It's was a successful merchant named Abraham Staub. He returned to Germany to marry Julia Schuster and then brought his bride back to Santa Fe, where they built this wonderful mansion. She became a prominent socialite, hosting lavish parties, while her husband served as the first president of the Santa Fe Chamber of Commerce. But tragedy lurked. Julia endured difficult pregnancies that took a severe toll on her mental and physical health. Nothing worked, and she passed away in 1896 at age 52, with Abraham following her in 1913. But what happened next proves that some love stories refuse to end with death. Julia's first documented sighting occurred in 1979 when a janitor spotted a woman in a black Victorian dress, her hair pulled back in a severe bun. Staff members have since reported countless similar encounters. Her apparition appears suddenly before vanishing into thin air. Her supernatural activities sometimes seem demonic. Gas fireplaces turn themselves on and off. Chandeliers sway without any breeze. Items mysteriously disappeared. One memorable evening, a bartender watched glasses fly off shelves and crash to the floor with no explanation. And visitors detect the distinct scent of roses, Julia's favorite flower, wafting through the building. There's been a lot of media coverage on that. So do check that out if you
Beautiful
wish.
place.
Oh, it is. It's a beautiful place. And so now we're getting to Arizona. If we have time. And I'm scrolling down. Flagstaff's Hotel, Monte Vista. Spirits that never checked out. And here's a picture of that. Downtown Flagstaff's Hotel, Monte Vista, presents a fascinating case study on how the supernatural can coexist with everyday hospitality. The establishment has hosted everyone from Hollywood royalty to weary Route 66 travelers, and apparently some guests who decided to extend their stays indefinitely. Hotel staff have documented the phantom bellboy of room 210 for over 70 years, making it one of the most consistently reported hauntings along the entire Mother Road. Guests in room 210 describe an identical pattern: deliberate knocking followed by a muffled announcement of room service. Despite never having placed an order, the hallway beyond their door remains empty with no evidence of staff present. During his own encounter with the spectral attendant during a 1950s visit while filming in the area, John Wayne's, or just says Wayne's account, carries particular weight given his reputation for practical, no-nonsense attitudes towards life and apparently afterlife. The bellboy typically manifests during early morning hours, suggesting he continues following his schedule he maintained in life. Witnesses describe feeling an odd, distinct, cold presence moving through their rooms immediately after the knocking stops. Some have glimpsed a shadowy figure that materializes briefly before dissolving completely. And then there is a rocking chair that moves on its own in room 305, a meat man of room 220. The entity gets its name from a bizarre incident during the 1980s when a long-term guest decorated his room with raw meat hanging from the chandelier and walls. And then his death occurred under mysterious circumstances. You can't make this stuff up.
Maybe a bear showed up.
Oh my goodness. Maybe it was a ghost bear. I don't know.
With all that meat hanging around.
I know Clark Gable and Carol Lombard stayed there. There's the Red Garter Inn in Williams, which was a brothel at the time. That is very haunted. It's a Victorian hotel. There's a ghost of Eva in a white gown that appears. Unseen hands that shake beds. Just a lot going on in Arizona. This is a pretty big chapter.
It also, Route 66 runs real close to that big crater where that asteroid hit.
Meteor. Yes, it does. It's right off the road.
Yeah.
Right off the road. And
not far.
From Winslow, Arizona.
You got it. And then it's not far from Roswell either.
Right. There's just a lot happening there.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we're going to get to California, The Mother Road crosses into California at Needles, a desert railroad town that experienced with both boom and abandonment cycles typical of the American West. What makes Needles particularly compelling for paranormal investigators isn't just its frontier history, it's the concentration of unexplained phenomena reported at two specific locations that seem connected by more than proximity. It gained prominence as a railroad junction before becoming the disappointing first glimpse of California for thousands of Dust Bowl migrants. These travelers expected the promised land, but encountered scorching desert instead.
Mm.
The most documented haunted location stands at 517 North K Street, the historic Greenhouse. The finished building contained 32 rooms, 4 bathrooms, 2 kitchens, 5 bedrooms, and 67 windows across 3,600 square feet. An unusually grand residence for a desert railroad town. The Greenhouse operated as a brothel between 1914 and 1947. And then it changed. They had underground tunnels. The documented phenomena at the Greenhouse include piano music from the basement when no piano exists there, an infant crying with no identifiable source, basement flooding despite no plumbing issues, apparitions of a man, a woman, and a child, physical contact from unseen entities. And unfortunately, we are out of time, and I am going to have to cover Route 666 on another show.
Mm.
So,
I tell you, Needles, real quick. The last time I went through there, I think was in 2016. The highest gas I ever paid, it was over $8 a gallon. And I remember, it's just this little tip of California, just this little piece there, that, of Nevada. I mean, you cross over that and come into Needles. And then after that, Margie, I just remember it was a long, straight shot through just wide open high desert for the longest time. Nothing out there. I was praying that my truck didn't break down.
You don't want to have some break down there.
But that all of those locations that you just mentioned are definitely places that anybody with an interest in the paranormal would want to go. I'm anxious to get this book on the shelf in my living room, because our friends and relatives come over, Margie, and they look at the Onyx magazines on the coffee table, and they go to the bookshelf and look at those books, and they wind up hauling them off.
You're going to have to chain them down, Ray.
I know. I have to try to write down, just keep notes, of who's got what books and if they're coming back. You know what I mean? Like, some books I've read, several times over, and it's good to pass those on. These are great books, to really get into the spooky atmosphere, especially this time of year, right?
Well, that's why we picked this time of year to publish. Yeah, I've been working on it for a few years, back and forth. You know how I do. I'll start something and then go on to something else, and then I'll get back to it later. But I'm glad to have it done. There's a lot of information in there, and then including Route 666, which we'll have to cover on another program, because that is a scary road. But thanks for joining me tonight, Race. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. It's been fun hanging out with you, Margie.
All right. Well, we will see you here again next week. We've got some good shows coming up in the near future, folks. So stay tuned to the Onyx Network.